Set in Tucumán, Argentina in the 2010s, Belén tells the important true story of a young woman who ends up being known by the pseudonym Belén, that's the title, who went to the hospital in pain and instead of finding the help that she was looking for was arrested and sent to prison. While in the hospital for pelvic pain, she denies being pregnant when asked, but the hospital insists that there was either an abortion or a miscarriage in the bathroom that she went to. The police leap to far-flung conclusions involving a botched abortion, followed by the drowning of the supposed fetus in the toilet water, leading to Belén being arrested on the spot for infanticide while she's still on the gynecology table with her legs spread. As a result, she ends up spending years in prison with a much longer sentence looming overhead, despite the fact that there's no real evidence for this infanticide charge. What supposed evidence there was, the fetus outright disappears if it was ever even there to begin with, and is inconsistent from report to report. It's clearly a rigged setup, with her being considered guilty from the word go by a judicial system that wishes to prosecute all abortion, but disguises it by concocting this infanticide story and scapegoating an innocent 24-year-old woman. As you might guess, this is a staunchly feminist film, and it tackles the subject of abortion and reproductive rights head-on, while also taking a multi-level look at the roles of the courts, the police, and the hospitals in the system that enables reproductive violence against women. While the film may be set in Argentina in the recent past, its themes and messages are just as relevant to the modern US and many other countries around the world. These are vitally important themes to explore and messages to showcase in this day and age, and to the film's credit, its messaging is clear and effective throughout. Unfortunately, the execution of the film comes up short in other regards, namely the plotting, the directing and editing of certain moments, and especially the character work, both on a script and performance level.
Bueno, les cuento a la gente que Soledad es la abogada defensora de Belén.
Y los jueces encerraron a una persona inocente sin pruebas.
No. Ella está presa por homicidio.
Estás obsesionada con sacarme los casos.
Me encantaría no tener que hacerme cargo de las mujeres que sistemáticamente dejas abandonadas.
Belén was adapted from the non-fiction book Simone Belén, written by Anna Correa and directed by Dolores Fonzi, who also served as one of the film's 4 adapted screenplay writers, and plays the lead role of Soledad Deza, the lawyer who takes on Belén's appeal case after her original lawyer all but threw the trial. Fonzi has been around as an actress since the 90s, but this is only her second film as director after 2023's Blondie, which she also co-wrote and starred in. I'm sure her heart was in the right place when tackling this story, but one has to wonder if there was some ego involved in deciding to play Deza herself and in deciding to position the lawyer as the film's protagonist instead of focusing more on Belén. Sure, Deza is the more active character, unconfined by the walls of a prison, but she isn't the more interesting or compelling character out of the two. An even-handed split would have served the narrative well, but Deza is given far more characterization, an entire family life at home, and I would estimate more than quadruple the screen time of the titular character. It certainly doesn't help that Fonzi comes up short with her performance. For many scenes, her performance is enough to get the job done, no more, no less. But whenever the big dramatic scenes come around that demand tears or really intense feelings, she hides her face behind her hands or behind her arms, and she just merely pantomimes the emotions instead of genuinely expressing them. Now, while definitely not a performance that I would call bad, it is one lacking in commitment, and that leaves a lot to be desired in those crucial moments, resulting in the potential emotional impact feeling muted. And by contrast, the character of Belén is given short shrift. The opening scene is truly nightmarish and generates enormous sympathy for Belén right out of the gate. But she sadly receives little to no characterization beyond her victimhood. The audience learns virtually nothing about who Belén is as a person outside of what happened to her on this one horrible night. We don't know what she does for work or school, what her interests and passions are. She doesn't have a fleshed out personality, and she isn't even allowed to really express any opinions that go further than simply reacting to the developments of the case and wishing for anonymity. She has a family that is technically present in the film, but unlike Deza's family, they aren't properly introduced or developed, only sort of fleetingly passing through scenes. Camila Plate does what she can with the role, and she does effectively showcase truer, deeper emotion than Fonzie, outshining the lead despite having significantly less material to work with. However, with this lack of characterization, the emotion can't come from a singular perspective rooted in character and is instead more generalized. None of the film's other characters leave an impression, or I should say none of them leave a good impression. Laura Paredes as Deiza's assistant Barbara and Salvador Limos as Deiza's son Lauti both come off poorly, the former because she's largely used as comedic relief in a film that is never once successfully funny, and the latter because he's written to be the dumbest, most oblivious child on earth, and it's not believable in the slightest. But to be clear, neither are the fault of those performers. It's the script and the direction that do them dirty. Speaking of failed comedic relief, this is one area where the film really drops the ball. As a director, Fonzie presents the dramatic scenes well enough, but the film wobbles to the point of falling over whenever it attempts a tonal shift or a stylistic shakeup. Every so often, the film endeavors to slide from prestige drama into a more fun or comedic sequence, but the execution is beyond awkward. We're talking about the kinds of scenes where you could imagine them working if they were styled with the rapid editing and clever framing of Edgar Wright circa the Cornetto trilogy, but instead they're shot the exact same way as the non-fun and funny scenes, only with distractingly ill-fitting music, including Gangnam Style in one particularly grating sequence, and with strange editing that never finds a workable rhythm and is always too languid for the scenes that are clearly meant to have the energy of fast-paced montages, but don't. There are also tonal shifts in the opposite direction. There are two brief moments where the drama is replaced by horror in the form of nightmare dream sequences, both involving blood emerging in the prison shower with Belén. The idea has potential, but again, the execution leaves these moments toothless. These scenes are too brief to have any impact, just like a non-nightmare sequence involving a brick thrown through a window, which the film cuts away from so quickly that the audience isn't allowed to feel the weight of the moment, nor shown the emotional responses of the characters involved. At times, the pacing of the film feels like it's speeding through a checklist of things that happened in the true story without properly dramatizing those events or their consequences.
Tenemos que sacar a Belén cuanto antes. La situación es crítica.
Hay que convocar una gran marcha nacional.
Libertad para Belén ya y anulación del fallo.
Vos sos solo una víctima.
Some scenes work quite well and give an impression of the full potential that could have been reached with the project, such as the opening sequence, or a good talk show scene where Deiza debates an anti-abortion figurehead. Other aspects of the screenplay feel underbaked, however. The actual casework that Deiza is doing throughout the film, for example, is left vague and weightless in favor of focusing more on her rote family drama. We get moments where she's attempting to get important files or retracing Belén's path, but these scenes are largely truncated to the point of breaking the ever-important show-don't-tell rule of screenwriting. We don't really see Deiza retrace Belén's path in a meaningful way. We're told that that's what she's doing when she explains it to her assistant. And then as soon as she says, I'm retracing Belén's path, the scene ends, it moves on. Moreover, major developments in the plot largely feel like they just kind of happen on their own, rather than being the result of our protagonist's actions. For example, the crowd of protesters supporting Belén grows over the course of the film. And in reality, I'm sure Deiza was instrumental in making that happen, but in the film, it feels almost entirely unrelated to what we actually see her doing. The same holds true for so many of the film's other major plot points, which are largely robbed of their inherent drama due to poor plotting and pacing. The film's thematic messaging is its biggest strength, but even this area isn't without one major stumble. Religion is present in countless scenes and is a fixation that the film clearly wants to say something about. There are crucifixes on the walls of the school and the courthouse. Deiza herself is religious and prays, and there are heated religious arguments involving Deiza's own daughter and others. It would seem as if Belén is building toward the main character being forced to reckon with her faith in the face of a system that uses her own religion to justify this violence against women. But no, that would be insightful, worthwhile social commentary if explored in a thoughtful way. Instead, the film seems afraid to critique religion or confront the way that it's utilized, and is content to simply just present religion as this ever-present entity in these characters' lives without arriving at a cogent point in regard to it. Overlooking the inextricable link between the protagonist's religion and that same religion's role in the system she's fighting against, it's more than a missed opportunity. It undercuts the film's overall message and strips the lead character of an inherently dramatic internal conflict. This is an important true story that deserves to be told, but Belén is far from being the ideal telling of it. I can only give this one a 3.5 out of 10. For more reviews, you can subscribe to Brickwall Pictures right here, or check out my website, which you can find a link to in the description. And if you want to help out, you can support the channel on Patreon, which goes for my main channel, the side channel Brickwall Unplugged, and the video game channel Brickwall Games. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. So long.